It's mad that there are any new houses, for example, to talk about the residential side of buildings. It's mad that there are any new houses being built that don't have B bricks and Swift bricks and sedum roofs and ridiculously well insulated and stuff as absolute standard, because these things are really easy to do and we know how to do it.
Yeah.
If the regulation's not there and the house builder doesn't need to do it, they're not going to do it.
Hello, and welcome to the EcoSend podcast, a weekly podcast on becoming a climate-conscious business. Every week, we'll be interviewing founders, marketers, and leaders who are championing the climate. The podcast is hosted by myself, James Gill, co-founder and CEO of Go Squared, and the makers of EcoSend. If you run a business or are responsible for growing one, and you want to have a positive impact on the environment, then listen on. Every episode, our goal is for you to learn something and be inspired to take some action. Every single one of us making small changes and some large changes will add up. We're all in this together. So let's get on with the show. Thanks so much for listening. Now let's meet today's guest. Hi there, welcome to another episode of the EcoSend podcast. I'm your host, James, and the podcast every week I have the honor of speaking to amazing people, usually in the world of business, working on purpose-driven businesses. EcoSend itself, you can learn more about EcoSend on our website. We're a climate-conscious email marketing platform. And the podcast really started as a journey to understanding more about the world of purpose-driven businesses and the climate in particular. This week, I'm honored to be joined by Russ Avery. Russ is the co-founder and CEO of Avery Brown, a B Corp Certified sustainable marketing agency, which specializes in supporting companies within the built environment sector. Although Avery Brown is only 3 years old, Russ has been working in sustainability for almost 15 years. He lives in Surrey with his wife and 3 kids, and I'm so excited to be talking to you today, Russ, because you got a lot I'm sure you're going to be unpacking with us, and I can't wait to learn more about what you're up to with Russ and Avery and about the built environment. I want to unpack a lot of stuff here, so welcome to the show, Russ. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me, James, and yeah, it's great to be here.
Great to see you. So, Russ, tell me a bit more about yourself in your own words. I know I've read off a little bit of an intro spiel there, but what are you up to with Avery Brown? And tell us all more.
Great. So my journey into sustainability started from as early on as I can remember, really, and I've got growing up on the beautiful west coast of Scotland to thank for that. So I'm very lucky, it's a privilege to grow up surrounded by beautiful countryside, because I know that not everyone has access to it, which is part of the problem. And yeah, that was largely responsible for a love of nature and wildlife from as early as I can remember. However, it wasn't until I was about 25 or 26 or something that I actually started to think about sustainability in terms of a career and what I wanted to do. So my journey began in earnest in 2009-10 when I got a foot in the door with a small ocean conservation charity called SeaWeb, based in London, which was a fantastic place to work. And I was there for a couple of years before I then fell into corporate sustainability consultancies, and I worked for 2 of those in central London for 6 years before I then left to become an independent marketer for sustainable brands. And to give you the nutshell version, I guess, Avery Brown was born in August 2020, so we're a COVID baby. And,
I see.
so we're just over 3 years old, and I'll leave it there for now because I know you've got more questions about the specifics.
That's super interesting. I mean, you say it's also good hearing about the very early days of like being in the Scottish countryside. That sounds delightful. And like, so that was it an element of that transition from the like being in the countryside to being in cities that sort of got you quite interested in this, or was it that contrast that maybe spawned some thoughts
Um,
about what to do? Or
yeah, potentially, like maybe subconsciously.
mm.
I'd be lying if I said that was a like a conscious thing, but I mean, I think yeah, it probably did play a factor. So I've always lived, or sorry, a lot of my life I've lived by the coast and
Mm.
surrounded by surrounded by the countryside. So I definitely really do miss the sea, for example, because I don't live by it anymore. I'm in Surrey, so we're a landlocked county. But yeah, like living and working in central London is obviously worlds away from living next to Loch Lomond, which is where I was from. Yeah, and I just I thought about what I actually wanted to do in life as a career because I got a degree in languages from the University of Exeter, but I didn't want to use them directly in anything for a career. So I
Mm.
didn't want to be a translator or an interpreter or anything. So it was a relatively useless degree from that perspective. And then I did a couple of years of temp jobs when I graduated, and then yeah, took a step back and decided what do I actually want to do in life. And although I had nothing to show for it in terms of academic qualifications, I decided to try and yeah get my foot in the door for just some sort of organization that was doing something good in the world and for
Yeah.
the planet. So I got that job at SeaWeb while I was doing a certificate in natural and environmental sciences from the Open University. So at least I was studying while
Oh.
I got the job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see. Like, how did you come across that job then? And like, was that
Uh,
just were you were just
I was just
naturally
job
thinking?
hunting on
Yeah.
I only when I decided that's where I wanted to go down, I only started job hunting on specific job ad sites like I think it was
Mm.
literally called environmentjob.co.uk.
Right. Yeah, I got a good
Right.
domain.
If that still exists, then there's a nice little plug for them. I've got
Well,
no
if
idea
it
whether
does, we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
yeah, so I was looking at those kind of jobs boards, and obviously I was
Yeah.
looking at really entry level positions because I didn't
Yeah.
know what specifically I wanted to do in one of those
Yeah. Yeah.
companies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great to just get my foot in the door.
Very inspiring though that sort of to just jump in and I mean not too much of a pun but to dive in at the deep end there.
Yeah.
But like to do that without really thinking oh I need another degree or I need lots of extra knowledge. I think especially when it comes to climate and something we've found is that sometimes you can be so worried you're doing the wrong thing and not do anything and a fear of a lack of knowledge can sometimes I think from a lot of conversations I've had can hold people back sometimes
Mm,
but
yeah.
you were quite keen to jump in and start trying to make an impact sort of one way or another.
Yeah, well, I knew I'd have to work my way up. I knew I'd be against going for jobs against other candidates who had maybe
Yeah.
relevant degrees and degrees in yeah sustainability and natural sciences or maybe even like ocean conservation and marine biology related degrees for the job at
Yeah.
SeaWeb. But yeah, I just went for it, and I knew that. Well, I hoped that having something on my CV, which in my case was doing my certificate at the OU, would just have show that I was actually serious about this, and I wasn't just going for a job in a completely unrelated field. So yeah,
What
it was a gamble, but it paid off.
what did SeaWeb actually what do they actually do out of interest?
So we did a lot there actually. The main kind of campaigns and initiatives that I was helping out with in my 2 years there were sustainable seafood,
Mm,
um, coral conservation, and in fact those were the two main campaigns I worked on.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
sustainable seafood was a big one that SeaWeb were heavily involved in, which is a really interesting world.
Yeah.
In fact, it was really interesting to see a couple of years ago when Seaspiracy came out on Netflix.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it, and everyone was talking.
I've not seen it
Yeah, so it's
myself,
definitely
no.
one to check out. But that got
Yeah.
people talking for all sorts of reasons. Some people hated it and thought it painted a lot of these issues and a lot of good organisations in a really bad light. But what it did
Right.
do was was massively raise awareness through the general public of the dire state of the world's oceans and what's happening to them in terms of the overfishing and everything else. So I think overall it was probably a good thing because so many people didn't know about these issues before, and that's what we need to do, right? Is reach outside the echo chamber and the bubble that we all work in as sustainability professionals, and try and engage the masses. So we need documentaries like that, to help us achieve that.
Yeah, it's better for people to have some awareness, even if it's maybe not ideal or not 100%, unbiased or whatever. But like awareness is better than total obliviousness to the topic.
Exactly, and people then naturally fall down the rabbit hole a bit because they'll Google certain topics and things that they've seen in the film, and then they'll, hopefully end up learning even more than the film itself teaches them through their own reading and stuff. So yeah,
sure. Well, you've definitely made me want to line something up on Netflix. I don't think I've got enough value from my Netflix subscription lately, so hopefully it can do some good in the world with that.
There are some good nature and climate related documentaries on there.
Yeah, I see. Well, thank you for the we'll see if we can link to that as well, actually, in the notes. And so I know I've got very hung up on SeaWeb there. I got caught in the SeaWeb net. So you, after that though, that was sort of, you were there for a bit and then you started working more in a more corporate kind of world, but still trying to bring these values to business life, I guess.
So the stars really kind of aligned for me on my next job, because after 2 years at SeaWeb, my wife and I were looking to move out of central London where we lived at the time. And we decided to move to Farnham in Surrey, which is where I still am now. And so I left SeaWeb to get a new job, and I managed to get a job. I mean, this is crazy, right? In Farnham, where we were moving, with a small startup sustainability consultancy. So it was just like ideal. So that
the chances.
So they were called Carbon Credentials. They're now Carbon Intelligence, part of Accenture. It was called Carbon Credentials, based in Farnham, about 6 people, based in a small office by Farnham Station. And I joined them as their marketing and communications manager in 2012. And by the time I left them 4 years later, we were about 60 people based on Regent Street in central London. So that was an amazing journey to be a part of.
Farnham, Regent Street, they're very similar. That's what a trajectory. That is awesome.
Yeah, that was a great journey to be a part of, and I learned so much in that 4 years, and also made a lot of good friends who I'm still friends with today. Most of us have since moved on from there, and it's great seeing all the different jobs that my old Carbon Credentials colleagues have gone on to get in, like still in sustainability, but with other companies, and seeing what they've gone to do. It's great.
Amazing. And so was it literally from there to then now running Avery and Brown?
No, then I did 2 years for one of Carbon Credentials' competitors, who at the time were called Sustainable Commercial Solutions. And then I led the rebrand of them into EVORA Global, which is what they're still called. And I was there for 2 years, and they were a corporate sustainability consultancy specifically for the commercial real estate sector. And I did 2 years there from 2016 to 2018, and then that's when I left to go it alone and stopped commuting into London 4 days a week and all that other good stuff.
Yeah. And I can see that maybe inching towards the sort of topic of the built environment and where you specialize now. So so I know you wanted to talk about purpose-driven businesses. Was there a point where you felt I need to work at one, or I need to start one, or I need to be spending my time only with purpose-driven businesses? Like, was there a tipping point along that journey?
I really wanted to I really wanted to start one. So working for one absolutely would have been, yeah, the second choice. But I thought about things a lot, and starting my own was something that I really wanted to do, have so that I could do what I wanted to do in terms of the direction that I wanted to take a business, and not have to seek approval or convince a boss
Yeah.
that that was the right thing to do, and to see what impact I could do if I was starting my
Yeah.
own. And so it was still 2 years though before Avery and Brown was formed. So first I was just Russ Avery Consulting Limited, and I was doing what we do at Avery and Brown just as a one-man business.
Mm.
But it's while I was doing that I met Tim, who had recently gone freelance as a graphic designer, and I started using Tim's graphic design services to fulfill some of my client jobs. And we just really enjoyed working together and decided to make it formal. And we closed down our respective businesses and formed Avery and Brown. And from day one, being purpose driven and having our sights set on becoming a certified B Corporation, for example, was was something we literally did talk about in our kind of Avery and Brown kickoff meeting, which
Oh
was
wow.
which took place in my garden shed in summer 2020. Yeah, and we incorporated the business a month later or something in the August. But yeah, like we haven't pivoted as an agency. Like it's been sustainability
Yeah, from day one.
from
Yeah.
the get go, and then we'd only been going for about 6 months, I think, when we started talking about regenerative business. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, and that's a term. I mean, yeah, I've got so many questions about the shed, but yeah, like the no, it's very cool, and also I must say the logo is very cool too. So it helps having a co-founder who knows about design.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's definitely handy. Yeah, it's
Love
nice.
it.
We still get nice comments about our own branding and stuff, which is
Yeah.
a really good proof point in terms of what we do for our clients and stuff.
Yeah,
So that's
usually a
good.
good indication, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Never quite trust the design agency if their logo looks like it was done in word art or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you wanted to talk about regenerative business as well. Yeah, and you're just touching on that, and that's a topic that's come up on a few of the episodes on the show. And I guess yeah, a lot of us talk about sustainability. We talk about this whole field of sustainable business and doing things sustainably, but that is perhaps not enough. And what does regenerative business mean to you, or what do you think about when you say that?
Yeah, that's right. So,
Yeah.
to your point you just made, for us, it's the fact that sustainable business is just not enough anymore. Like it's way too late in the day for that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If we're to, I was going to say if we're to believe the scientists, which of course I think we should, but actually now you only just really need to look outside and turn on the news to see the latest extreme weather event that's taking place somewhere in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So, being sustainable, as the very word and name of sustainable business implies, that you operate in such a way so that you can keep going and maintain your operations
Yeah.
over time. We now need businesses that actively give back more to both society and the planet than they take. So
Mm.
it's not just about being sustainable, it's about using your profits, because again, purpose and profit are obviously not mutually exclusive. Like
Yeah.
now, happily, dozens of examples to prove that that's very much the case,
Yeah.
thanks to things like the B Corp movement and stuff. And it's about how using those profits for good to give back more. So, when you've done what I know some sustainability consultants would consider to be kind of sustainability 101, and like reduce your business carbon footprint and things like that, it's like, yeah, but then what can you do? Can you
Mm.
can you keep further reducing it to try and be a carbon neutral or a net zero business? What can you use your profits for? Can you support
Mm.
local, environmental regeneration projects, either
Yeah.
locally on your doorstep or internationally through supporting the right kind of charities and companies? Can you give back? Can you give back to society by supporting local charity or supporting your local food bank? Food banks is a really interesting example actually, because Farnham, for example, is a really affluent area, like there's, it's Commuterville, it's like, Shishi, Surrey kind of town, but there's also a lot of poverty around. And
Mm.
you can easily forget that when you live somewhere like this and you're surrounded by like nice houses and people driving Land Rovers. But there's also like a bunch of food banks around and people who, the cost of living crisis and everything has like hit them really hard. So yeah, it's about, you know, thinking globally and acting locally, which I know is probably a massive cliche. But
No, it's
it's a cliche for a reason because it's true, right? And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
these are all the things that we need to think about. And it's a privilege to run a business where you can choose, how to use your profits and what impact you can have. And if we can get more and more businesses to think in these terms, like, is the world a better place because my business exists, is a great question to ask yourself, which was the theme of the Better Business Summit up in January, up in Manchester in January, sorry, earlier this year. I think that's a great question that if every business asked themselves that, they'd immediately think of all these different little things that they could be doing. And, maybe that's a good opportunity to mention our regenerative business mind map that we made, because that's what we tried to get people to do. So that all started with our own iPad sketch that I did back in April 2021, where I was just sketching down some of my own ideas for what we were then calling our sustainability journey here at Avery and Brown. And I shared it on LinkedIn. But I was never expecting it to get such a huge reception, but it did. So we took it further and we took people's comments into consideration for the next version, and then we created a next version and a next version. So I think we're on like the version that's available on our website now is version 3, and it's just meant to be a great source of inspiration for anyone who wants to start their journey towards being a better business but has got absolutely no idea where to start. And you can literally dive into this mind map, which looks very complicated from the nature of being a mind map, but actually it's broken down by section, and you can start wherever you want, and it should source as a great, serve as a great source of inspiration for what you can do.
That is awesome. I know we will definitely have that in the notes as well for this episode, so anyone listening can absolutely go grab that. I love that. I mean, it's so inspiring to hear you talk, Russ, because I think anyone running either a sustainable business or even better a regenerative business, like they probably haven't, well, unless they're like you, they probably haven't been doing that all the time they've been running their business. And for us, we were on this journey ourselves, and for a long time, a heck of a long time, running Go Squared, my mindset was like, we've got to survive. We've got to build our business. We've got to try and make more money than we spend. And there's a whole other sector called the charity sector that does like the good stuff. And I love what they're doing, but like that's not for us to worry about. And since on this journey with EcoSend and building things and taking a different mindset, it's just incredible to see how much you can do as a business to make the world better. And it's infectious, I think, in that like once you start doing that, you want to do more, and you realize how much more there is to do, and you want to tell everyone to try and like think a bit more like that. And hopefully, as you say, it is truly a privilege to do that. But it's so rewarding too.
Yeah, I completely agree. Our purpose at Avery and Brown is to inspire others to be a force for good. So,
doing a good job so far.
Thank you very much. So we thought about that a lot, as you can imagine, and as you would hope. And that's what we came up with as our purpose, because it's not about the fact that we're a sustainable marketing agency and we've got our vision and our mission as well, but our purpose, we really loved that because it speaks to so much more than just the fact of what we do as a sustainable marketing agency. So that is why we share so many free resources, that these things take us a lot of time to make. So, it costs the business a lot every time we pull together one of our free resources that we share. But we do it because we really do believe in trying to live out our purpose and do exactly that, inspire others to be a force for good. Because it's the whole, we can go quickly if we go alone, but we can go far if we go together, right? We need to get other people engaged and on board. And if we can help do that in some small way by sharing our knowledge publicly, then great, we'll do it. That's what it's all about. It's like we need to get people on board. We need to rally the troops. We need every business doing this, not just a small handful of us who all go to the Blue Earth Summit and stuff like that. It needs to be everyone.
Absolutely. And that mindset as well, like, it's easy to take for granted that you're willing to share things like that, because, in the world of business at times, it can sometimes feel like, oh, we've discovered this thing that makes us unique and let's keep it secret and private. And, we don't want other people copying this or doing this better than us. Whereas, like, on this subject, we all share this planet together. Like, we probably, the chances are you want someone to come along and do a better version of that mind map and show you and then get a V4 out, I would imagine.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, anyone's free to go and do that. And it would be great. Be great to see what they come up with.
I dropped you in it there.
Yeah. As long as they reference back to our original one, that'd be great.
Make sure there's a backlink.
Yeah. And you mentioned something else interesting, James, which was the whole, the charity sector being thought of as the people who are doing the good, like over there. And that's what I thought as well when I worked at SeaWeb and before I worked at SeaWeb, and it was only when I joined Carbon Credentials, and then while I was there in my 4 years there, I started discovering lots of different companies and this movement called B Corp, which back then was still really unheard of. Because I guess in 2012, B Corp was maybe only 6 years old or something like that.
Yeah, very early days. Yeah,
so really early days. So it's when I discovered that, oh no, you can be a for-profit business but still do good in the world. And in fact, sometimes you can do like potentially even more good than a charity can, which is a really bold claim. But actually charities, it's such a complicated landscape with the way
I think I would agree
charity finances and stuff like that work, and getting the aid to the right places and using donation money like in the most effective way and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong for a second, there are some charities that do that amazingly and are really transparent about how many pence out of your pound goes to the actual end cause that you're trying to support and stuff. But I think, the private sector plays a massive, massive role in the creation of a better planet. So we need more purpose-driven businesses to rise up and use their profits and their voice and their message for good.
Absolutely. And I guess on a high level, it's like, we're not really in a very good situation if the companies do the bad stuff, the charities do the good stuff, and hopefully the charities do more good stuff than the companies do bad stuff. Like we can't have that as a solution.
The charities are just effectively trying to firefight all the bad stuff that the companies are doing.
Might be a good idea if the companies did some good stuff. And so I know we've already been whizzing through the topics here, Russ, and I know you said that we'd easily go a half hour without covering everything, but I know we really want to talk about the built environment, which is your big focus at Avery Brown. So tell me more.
So this came about really organically, and it wasn't our focus from day one. To begin with, we were just... I say but we were a sustainable marketing agency for any purpose-driven business, no matter what sector they were from. However, B2B was where our experience and expertise lay. So even Tim hadn't done as much B2C stuff as he'd done B2B businesses in his design work previously. I'd been B2B because I was in-house marketer at 2 corporate sustainability consultancies. So we were never going to be a big consumer goods sustainable marketing agency, which is, probably what most people think of, maybe fairly, as the sexier kind of side of it, because you're getting to market cool products instead of services. But actually B2B doesn't have to be boring. It's about you making it more interesting for your client. I think
Yeah.
it's actually more of a challenge. But the built environment thing came around because actually most of our clients just happen to be in that space. And that is, as you said, that is directly linked back to my jobs at both Carbon Credentials and EVORA Global, because I had loads
Mm.
of contacts in the real estate sector and the
Right.
built
Yeah.
environment
Yeah.
space. And we won a few of those people as our clients in the early days of Avery and Brown. And so before we know it, without kind of deliberately trying or focusing on that sector, yeah, probably about 70% of our clients were built environment related clients. And for those
Yeah.
that don't know, the built environment is a phrase that encompasses buildings, towns, and cities and infrastructure. So everything that,
Just a few things
yeah, yeah.
there.
So, it's what humans have built. So you've got the natural environment, which we're rapidly losing at an alarming rate. So that's our last wild places and, you know, countryside and the ocean. And then you've got the built environment. So yeah, that which humans have made. So it's great because it's a niche, but it's a massive niche because it includes construction companies, property developers, real estate firms, architecture practices, renewable energy,
Sure.
and technologies that are making buildings and cities more sustainable or regenerative. So it's actually vast because there are so many companies that we'll have never heard of who are doing really cool things and
Yeah.
trying to make our buildings, towns, and cities more sustainable. So that is our focus. Do we still talk to other cool purpose-driven businesses from outside of that sector? Yes, absolutely. But in terms of like what we're going after, we're looking to acquire more clients from that space, just because we think it'll be good to have a niche and a focus,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
also
And
because the opportunity for positive impact is so huge. That's the other reason we do it. So
yeah.
there's a fact that gets thrown about a lot in this space, but it's for good reason, which is that buildings account for 40% of global CO2 emissions. Yeah, it's massive. So we've absolutely got to make our built environment more sustainable if we're going to have any chance of preventing runaway climate change. So it's a really cool sector to have a positive impact in as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you see it in London, like living near London, like in London and working in London, and you try and do all the good in the world, and you see skyscrapers going up primarily made of concrete
Yep.
and steel and glass, and often with a lifespan of maybe 40, 50 years, and you think, wow, that's an interesting situation we're in, isn't it?
100%.
Like,
And there is such a massive amount of work to be done to insulate existing building stock,
yeah,
retrofit existing buildings to make them more sustainable.
yeah,
And these are huge jobs. And all of that needs to be done. And yet, what drives me crazy is that even these brand new buildings that you just mentioned and brand new
mm,
skyscrapers and stuff, they're not being built as
mm,
sustainably as they could because of
yeah,
lack of regulation.
mm,
It's mad that there are any new houses, for example, to talk about the residential side of buildings. It's mad that there are any new houses being built that don't have B bricks and Swift bricks and sedum roofs and
mm,
ridiculously well insulated and stuff as absolute standard, because these things are really easy to do and we know how to do it.
yeah, yeah.
If the regulation's not there and the house builder doesn't need to do it, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, I feel like we could easily go into another whole hour show about this in particular, Russ. You warned this would happen.
I did.
Yeah.
There are some cool things being done as well, James, as you'd expect. So
Yeah.
amazing things being done with timber frame buildings and timber
Really?
buildings now.
Okay.
So there's a whole wooden kind of mini city being built. I think it's just on the outskirts of Stockholm or even in part of
Oh,
Stockholm.
wow.
So there are obviously loads of really cool things happening, and there are much better uh, housing developers and property developers who are going above and beyond what they need to
Yeah.
do from a regulatory point of view by creating more sustainable homes, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. But it's not the majority. That's the point.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
yeah,
and hopefully that will continue to change. And I guess it's where companies like yourselves are helping those companies stand out more and thrive and grow. So I guess, yeah, it's I'm optimistic for the future. Speaking of the future, I know you wanted to briefly mention maybe like, I don't know, any thoughts on how you, maybe it's an extension of what you were just saying there, Russ, but like in sort of 5 years time, what do you think is going to change or stay the same within the business landscape?
Yeah, so I realized that this is where I was supposed to like wink at you and send you my code word and
Yeah.
not ask me or something, but I probably haven't thought this through well enough. But I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
you know, what scare, I'll start with the pessimistic side of the coin first, I guess, because what scares me is that with how quickly things have changed in terms of climate this year alone,
Yeah.
it's been it's been terrifying to put it frankly. Like the climate scientists have been like massively alarmed with how quickly things have changed this year in terms of like average temperature increases
Yeah.
and what's been happening with the kind of like ocean surface temperatures and stuff like that. And it's happening
Yeah.
much quicker than they thought. And so I think, my God, in 5 years' time, it'll be 2028, nearly 2029, because it's nearly the end of the year already. And if this pace of change continues to happen or accelerates due to tipping points and positive feedback loops, then we're going to be in a really, really shit state. So
Mm.
my hope is that the better business movement will kind of continue to accelerate, will continue to put ever increasing amounts of pressure on world leaders and governments. And I mean, my hope would be that in 5 years' time, businesses which operate like B Corps or like regenerative businesses are just 10 a penny, and that there are
Yeah.
loads of us out there, and that
Yeah.
the groundswell has like really happened, and we finally reached a point where any business that's not like that is looked at
Mm.
like an absolute dinosaur, and
Yeah.
they can't attract anyone to work for them because
Yeah.
the shift in people wanting to work for such companies has changed as well. So we just need this massive snowball effect to happen that
Yeah.
makes old traditional business models completely defunct and
Yeah. Yeah. The new
not
default
viable.
being to, yeah, changing the default of what's expected of business. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
it would be a hell of a lot easier if we had world leaders that actually cared enough to help us make this happen, so we didn't all need to put in as much effort. But
Yeah.
sadly, that's just
Yeah.
not reality. And we obviously think in terms of the UK here because that's where we live, but we're just one country in the world.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we have influence and impact, but we're just one small country. And this has got to happen like around the world quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, obviously the onus is on the northern hemisphere and all the
Mm.
big countries like the UK, which have been so which have contributed so much to the damage thus
Yeah.
far. The onus isn't on southern
Yeah.
hemisphere poorer nations, which have had absolutely nothing to do with the climate crisis.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on
We
us.
should be
Yeah, we
setting the example for how to put it right. Yeah.
exactly. We've got to lead
Yeah.
from the front, set the example, and show how we can turn things around. So yeah, 5 years time. Wow, it's scary because it seems like ages away to talk about 2028, 29, but it's actually going to come around really quickly. And
Yeah.
yeah, 4 or 5 more years like this year is going to be pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah. Hopefully that will inspire a few people to maybe make some changes in their lives and start businesses of their own, maybe. And I think hopefully, as you say, the kinds of companies becoming purpose driven is going to become more and more of a norm, and doing things in a better way is going to become the default. I would hope for that as well. And let's see where we are. Hopefully we don't need to wait 5 years either to get to a better place. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Russ. I know you, just to make sure it's clear, your resources you wanted to share. So the regenerative business mind map hopefully will help others if they, on that very poignant note you've just been sharing there, to actually start changing your own business and do something about it. Like that's a good place to start, I guess.
Yeah, I just hope that anyone who's even remotely interested, which, I'm guessing the listeners of this podcast already tick that box, which is great. But if they're not sure how to take the next step on their journey, then yeah, the mind map should provide lots of ideas.
Awesome. And you also have another resource, which is the Ultimate Impact Reporting Checklist, which also sounds good.
That's our latest free resource, which has been a long time coming, and we're really proud of this one as well. So anyone who is thinking about publishing an impact report, which certified B corporations have to publish as part of the B Corp process between their recertification years, and which other companies are now beginning to do voluntarily just because they want to show leadership and talk about their journey. This should be really, really helpful, because it can be really overwhelming, not knowing where to start, not knowing what information to include, and it's full of, as you'd imagine, a checklist, loads of things to think about and tick off, and it will help you get started on that journey. And if it still feels really overwhelming, then that's exactly what we can help with.
Sure. Thank you, Russ. We'll link both of those in the notes. And if anyone wants to find you online, you're on Twitter at the Russ Avery. You're on Instagram, also the Russ Avery. And you're also on LinkedIn, Russ Avery. And you've got your website, russavery.com. And there's averyandbrown.com. So we'll link all of those in the notes.
Brilliant.
And yeah, I guess if you're working in the built environment and you want to chat, then Russ is the person to talk to. But yeah, thank you so much, Russ. I feel like it's been a fantastic show, packed with inspiration, some hard truths there, but also lots of actionable resources to hopefully help people on their own journey, which has been amazing. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me, James. It's been great to chat.
Thank you, Russ. And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you've listened and enjoyed this show, we always want to hear from you. Please do tell anyone you think might be interested in the show about us. It always helps spread stories like Russ's here. And we'd love to see you next time on the show. So thanks for listening, and catch you next time.